Today I'm going to show you another way to incorporate a poached egg into your menu plan or diet. This is just noodles, chicken stock, and onions, and I'm actually going to drop a poached egg into it. I don't know how well this is going to work. I got this idea from, I don't know if egg drop soup is Japanese or Chinese, but it's sort of the same method, except you don't use the egg yolk in Chinese egg drop soup, and you actually whisk in the white into just broth, which I might do an excerpt on later on in the month, but for right now, that's not going to work. So, what I'm going to do is just drop the egg into the center very gently. And let it poach that way. Whenever you drop the egg in, you're going to want to do it gently so the egg holds its shape when it goes down in. You're not going to want to plop it in. You're going to want to get as close, the eggshell itself, before you crack it, you're going to want to get it as close to the stock, or this is basically chicken soup. So get the eggshell as close to the liquid as possible, and then drop it in so it holds its form. And I might turn the heat up a little bit. I'll leave this on so you can watch and see what happens. The noodles are already finished, so you're going to want to add the egg at the end. And I'm going to let the egg cook totally through. I'm not going to leave any yolk in it or anything. This might be a pretty long video since it might take a while for this egg to cook. But you can see how the albumin held its shape here. And I definitely not want to crack the yolk either, try to keep that. And this is another technique I learned from dippy eggs. With if you're cooking them with a lot of grease, you can actually baste an egg with a hot liquid. So maybe this will help the process quicken and take shape. But like I said, if you're making dippy eggs and then you have a lot of grease in the pan, or you specifically want to make your dippy egg that way, you can actually baste your dippy egg in the hot bacon grease, and you won't need to fry it at the end on the top. And that actually did something. You can see the ring it created around the yolk itself from the albumin cooking before the yolk. So obviously albumin cooks before yolks, or it has a lower I don't know what I'd want to call it, a lower cook time or a lower cook temperature. So let's just say that the white of an egg cooks faster than the yellow. And it's probably because the white has less to it than the egg yolk itself. The egg yolk itself is fattier than the white. And if you notice, when you cook meats, the fat is the last thing that really cooks off. So it kind of makes sense that the yolk, since it's fattier, cooks a little slower than the white or the albumin. And you can see I'm continuously ladling hot stock or whatever liquid you want to use, whether it's chicken, beef, or shrimp. This could actually be considered sort of a Chinese hot pot without any meat added to it or vegetables, which the hot pot is basically a bowl of broth, and you sit down on the table and they give you a bunch of ingredients to cook in the hot broth, and the pot itself should come out with a heating element, whether it's hot rocks put into a bowl and then a wet rag placed over the hot rocks, or I don't know, I guess some type of Bunsen burner, but that's how potlucks are served. You actually dip thin slices of meat, or submerge thin slices of meat and vegetables into the hot stock, and you give it a little while before it cooks to your liking, and then you fish it out along with some of the stock. So other than the hot pot itself, which would have the stock, you'd also be getting some bowls with a potluck as well to eat it like soup. And I guess some people would ladle the hot stock into their bowl and then try to cook it, but that's not really how traditionally Chinese, or I don't even know if it's Chinese or Japanese, but they don't really care about, I guess, single servings or you serving yourself. They like it to be a traditional thing where it's the dinner itself is seen as or joining between the two people instead of being served in like a self-righteous way as to use a single serve bowl for yourself and be afraid of getting germs from the other person. Most traditional Chinese people would find that very offensive. So if you ever sit down with one and are pretty gutsy, and it's usually the older generation that think that way, and you have hot pot, the only time you're going to want to use the bowl is to fish out your meat and put it in the bowl. I definitely wouldn't take any stock out. As I was saying, I think it's the Chinese that really like to see when you go out to a dinner for it to be a joint session instead of seen as a meeting where you only care about yourself. And this has taken a pretty long time. You can see the eggs move from the center, and I can't really mess around with it because it'll break apart. So I'm going to continuously ladle this sauce, which really isn't doing much. I'm going to turn it up still. At this point, this is an experimental recipe, and I just want to get it done so I can eat. I'm actually gonna throw a lid on it. This is my little storage area down there. I don't think that I have the correct lid for this though, which I really wish I did. I don't think I'm gonna throw a lid on it if I don't have the correct lid. Because honestly, now that I think of it, a hard-boiled egg usually takes around 8 minutes. This doesn't have the outer shell on it. So, it won't take close to near 8 minutes, hopefully. I'm guessing the eggshell might actually quicken the process of the egg cooking. Because once the egg actually hits the proper boiling point, there's a skin inside the egg that seals off and kind of creates a small little oven inside the egg, as to where it wouldn't let any heat out, and you can see how heat's escaping through the steam right there. If I had a lid, this would go a lot faster. If I really wanted to, I could probably just throw a whisk in there and whisk everything together, but I'm definitely not going to do that. That would ruin the concept of the new dish itself. I don't know why I keep saying new, because somebody's probably already come up with it. Yeah, my noodles are going to be overcooked too, for sure. I'm going to try to dunk the egg down in. Keep ladling stuff over it. Just try to get the broth and not any of the noodles themselves. If I would have had carrots, I would have added carrots to this as well. I'm not a big celery fan, so... And sometimes when you do add vegetables, it pulls away from the stalk, which means it takes away from the stalk's taste. So you're going to have a milder stalk with certain vegetables, like onions and celery. They kind of pull away from the stalk, which carrots... They add a little bit of sweetness, but the stalk itself still holds its boldness. This is starting to pick up the pace here now that the heat started to actually kick in after I turned it up. Like I said, I definitely want the yolk itself all the way cooked through. I don't want the noodles burning at the bottom either. You can see, I can probably pull the yolk out right here. You can see it's almost all the way cooked through. I'll actually pull the egg out so you can see what it looks like. And then all I'm going to do is chop it up and leave it in the stock itself. I just don't want to lose all the broth that I have for my soup, because that's my favorite part. And you can see the foam on top, which is a combination of starch cooking out of the noodle, which you don't always want, because that means you're overcooking your noodle, or you're cooking it too quickly. And the rest is probably egg white that slipped away from the actual egg itself. But like I said, when you see foam on noodles, that's the starch being not really cooked off, but exposing itself from the noodle, or breaking away from the noodle. If you were to rinse your noodles before, like rice, some people say that you should rinse rice before you cook it to get all the starch off of it. So the kernels cook properly, and it's not going to be a heavy thick kernel, and it's going to be more of a light kernel. Sometimes you only do that for specific recipes as well. Like with sushi, I know you definitely rinse the rice. But like I said, rinsing rice just removes some of the starch that gets pushed away from the grain itself during packaging. And the same thing goes for noodles. Alright, I'm going to set the phone down and turn that off. Take my pot off the heat, and I might actually throw some cold water in it so the noodles stop cooking, and then add an extra bouillon cube because I did lose a lot of my stock during that. Here's what the egg turned out to be. I'll remove the noodle from right here, but it's fully cooked, and now I'm just gonna chop it up and put it into the soup itself. I could have used a little more time, but like I said, I wanted to get started on using this. So basically, just cut the noodle up into decent sized chunks, and then add it back in afterwards. But I'm gonna add more chicken bouillon to that because I probably lost flavoring too. Or I'd show you what the full soup actually looked like. Like I said, that's just a basic small version of what a potluck would be like. You'd actually crack the egg into the hot stock when you're with your company and have a conversation while the fresh vegetables and the meats and whatever else they give you cook, and then you fish it out and put it in a bowl. You don't ladle the stock out and put it in your own bowl and try to cook it like that, because once again it's disrespectful to some people, and sometimes your vegetables and meat won't even cook right and you'll look like an idiot because you don't know how to eat potluck. Or not potluck, hot pot.